Hey folks, Java John here. You're listening to the Acoustic record on Tropic Wave Radio, and we're spending the day today looking at the Guthrie family legacy. Woody Guthrie, Arlo Guthrie, Sarah Lee Guthrie, NORA Guthrie, and we've even kicked in some Pete Seeger. And I've got Miss NORA Guthrie on the line. Let's see, Nora, are you there?
I am.
Welcome to the show, please. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I'm sorry that this kind of came together a little rushed.
I just figured we'd drop by, and see what's happening in your house there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I do appreciate you taking the time out. And as I was telling Anna, she was very helpful. Maybe this will just be an introduction to for you and I, and maybe we can go into a little more in depth your work. In the near future, maybe we can put a special program on, a special segment focusing on what you do in particular.
Great.
Yeah, that'd be fun. It seems you've got your hands in a lot of different things regarding the Woody Guthrie Foundation, Woody Guthrie Archives, Woody Guthrie Publications.
Yeah. Well, it's all one family to me,
Right.
So it's like when you're the, parent or the mother, whatever, you cook, you do this, you do that, you work, so I have a lot of different jobs, but it's all within the same family. So it just depends on what time of the day it is. Tells me what to do.
all the different babies, and they each get their own special
exactly.
attention.
As long as my chair goes around 360 degrees, I'm okay.
Well, let's start this off by the whole thing came together because of the Guthrie family legacy tour, and I put together an interview with Arlo, and then that grew into chatting with Sarah for a little while. And the idea came to me to reach out to you and to Pete Seeger, and I did have the opportunity to speak with Pete for about 20 minutes earlier in the program as well, and that was very special. So when I found out that you and Pete were on board, I knew this was going to be a very special show, and it is focused around Arlo's tour, the family legacy tour. In large part because there's 4 generations of Guthries represented on the tour, and I find that just a beautiful tradition, very intriguing, but I want to go past that with you too. I want to talk about what you do as well. But as far as the Guthrie family tour is concerned, Arlo did touch on the what do you call the wire recording?
Right, the Woody wire, right.
Is that just one piece of material?
It's one performance. It's a live performance, the only known live performance of Woody in front of a live audience in concert. When I say that, again, I don't want anyone to think Madison Square Garden in concert. For Woody Guthrie, a live concert performance is usually in front of about 20 or 30 people,
right,
at a local YWMCA or something like that, or a union hall or a benefit for something, or
right,
other, because those were really the only kinds of live performances he ever did. Now when we use that phrase, people tend to think like large concert halls and arenas and things like that, but you have to remember in 1940s, and when Woody was doing these performances, they were all very, very small gatherings of folk clubs and benefit concerts for rent-raising,
right,
things like
exactly,
that.
Sure.
So anyway, backtracking, this is the only live recording in front of a small audience that Woody did a concert in New Jersey, and we were lucky enough here at the Woody Guthrie Archives that someone had sent us the original wire recording, and probably no one out there in your listening audience probably even knows what a wire recording is.
Very few, I'm sure. I'm just vaguely familiar with it. That's the one on the spool.
It looks like a fishing reel.
Right.
And it's a tiny, thin wire, kind of like a very thin guitar string.
Right.
And there was a brief period of time for 2 or 3 years when that was the recording choice. and this was in 1949, so around 1948, 49, 50. This was used for a while. Anyway, someone had sent us. They had found it in their father's. He had found it in his closet, and this was a young man who just was a kind of wire geek in 1949, and he was just taping all these shows, recording all these shows. Anyway, it turns out to be just an extraordinarily fascinating performance, because the one thing that I felt growing up listening to my dad's recordings, as much as you can appreciate the songwriting and the skills and the songwriting of like Pastures of Plenty and all those kind of songs, I never understood, and I'm being totally honest with you now, I never understood why he was so beloved. And I said, well, lots of people have written great songs and great novels and great things, but doesn't mean everybody loves them.
Right.
But Woody had such a heartfelt following, and even his legacy seems to be so filled with love and feelings like that I never could put it together when I heard the recordings that are out, whether it's the Smithsonian Folkways group or the Dust Bowl Ballads. Anyway, so there was always this disconnect. When I heard this wire recording in front of a live audience, the whole thing fell into place for me. First of all, he's so lovely in concert. He's so personable. He's so charming. He's so sincere. He's so there. He reaches out to the audience. If he gets a chuckle, he reaches again and he gets 2 chuckles. And then he keeps working the room to get 3 chuckles. I mean, he's so ever present with the audience. And after listening to this, I said, that's why he's Woody Guthrie. It's because the people who actually heard him in concert loved him. There was a connection between him and his people. And it wasn't just the songwriting, and it wasn't just the politics. It wasn't just any one thing. It was actually him as a human being. And that's something that we've all forgotten. Over history, we've got so into the icon and all the different little pieces of him that we've forgotten. Maybe we never even knew, because it wasn't in any of the other recordings.
Right.
We just didn't know him well enough to realize how beloved he was by so many people and how much he loved people. Because today, there was a period of time when singer-songwriters became almost kind of isolated, angry figures.
Right.
I mean, when you think of the early singer-songwriter persona, and I don't mean to be specific here, but just a general persona, at a glance of a Phil Oakes or an early Dylan and people like that. Mm-hmm. They seem to be loners. They seem to be somewhat sad.
Right.
They seem to be kind of lonely philosophers with some degree of angst.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've kind of assumed that because they are the ones that introduced so many people to Woody, we've kind of taken on and said, oh, well, maybe that's what they got from Woody. Woody's angst, Woody's solo, all of these things we've attributed to Woody without ever really knowing him. When you talk to the older folks, they say, oh, my God, that's not true. He was funny and charming and sociable. One of the greatest myths is that he was a lonely musician, like when we think of singer-songwriter again, of early Phil Oakes or a Dylan playing alone without musicians. Woody much, much preferred playing with a bunch of other musicians.
Right.
He was Carter family all the way. The more, the merrier. He played with fiddlers, mandolin players, banjo players, bones players, spoon players. The more, the merrier.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, and I think that having this wire recording, which we're going to be releasing actually shortly,
that sounds great.
Just introduces a whole different person. And then you think, wow, here's this really nice guy reaching out, connecting with the audience, not shy at all, extraordinarily funny and witty. And to top it off, he sings these great songs that he's even written.
Right.
Then the whole full picture starts. You go, oh, that's why I'm doing the work I am today.
Yeah.
He's worthy of it.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm being very, very real now, very straight. because honestly, I never got it.
I could see that, and I'm not going to pretend to say that I got it,
Yeah.
but I see I'm a bit of an illustrator. I'm not a songwriter by any means, but I'm an illustrator, and I've always appreciated his cartooning and his painting, and I get a sense a bit of a sense of humor of him through that.
Yeah.
And then I've always appreciated songs that he's done for children, and that always gave me a bit of a familial feel for Woody. But then going through your bio and stuff on the Woody Guthrie WoodyGuthrie.org. You mentioned that he did love to play with people, and apparently he loved to play many styles of music too. With this project you got coming up, focusing on Woody's country and western and rockabilly.
Well,
tunes,
look at
styled lyrics.
everywhere he traveled.
Yeah.
He met up with different kinds of musicians playing different kinds of music,
Yeah.
and he loved to learn those styles and adapt his playing to their style. The early music that he was listening to in his youth was definitely kind of Carter Family, Jimmy Rogers,
right.
Tunes, and that's what he learned. He imitated. That's what he wanted to play, and that's what he played with his family in Oklahoma and Pampa, Texas. And as he traveled over to the West Coast and he heard more kind of Western swing musicians and country Western, etc., he adapted to that. He played that. He created songs in that style, like Oklahoma Hills. So he was constantly moving through many, many different styles of music and learning the different strums and the different chord progressions and the different style of lyric writing that goes along with them. And then he comes to New York, and the first person he meets up and hooks up with is Leadbelly.
Yeah.
And he gets totally into the blues, and he starts picking up the blues and befriending Sonny Terry and Brown and McGee. And he continues. Not only the funny thing about Woody is that he was a great student of all these different styles. So he's learning and picking up. When you look at the songs that he wrote on the West Coast, like Oklahoma Hills, they're totally in the country Western swing tradition. And there's hundreds of them from that period. And then as he comes to New York and he's learning the blues, he starts writing in blues. Starts writing and imitating and picking up Leadbelly's style and Sonny Terry's, and just the whole tradition of Southern blues he starts picking up. Well, now he's in New York, and there's all kinds of other people playing classical music, and through my family he hears Jewish music, through my mother's family. So he's just constantly adapting and working his way through. I mean, sometimes I almost look, and I have to say that someone like Bob Dylan is a wonderful example of that, because for some people it's hard to imagine they have Woody kind of locked into a certain style of music and a certain instrument.
Right.
And then, the things that Dylan, in a way, has been criticized sometimes for is by going through different eras and periods and personas and styles and instruments. And I feel like, actually, Woody was very much like that. We don't have the recordings to, quote-unquote, prove it.
Yeah.
We don't have the photographs because Woody wasn't photographed to prove it. We don't have the evidence, but I'll tell you, in terms of the songwriting and what I know and from the people I know, it was very, very similar to that. And probably Woody would have been equally criticized or critiqued for being so fluid and so open and so experimental.
And that, and that's one of the things that I love about Bob too. Is and a lot of people don't love that. A lot of people just want to hear those first 3 or 4 records over and over and over and over and over again. That was Bob Dylan to them. Well,
you see, Woody didn't have anything to prove.
Right.
He didn't have any huge bills to pay.
Right.
He didn't have anything that he was afraid of losing. So therefore, all of this, when we look at it in retrospective, it seems very conscious. But as he was living it, it was very unconscious, and he's just flowing with the moment. He's flowing with meeting Leadbelly and Sonny Terry, and then later, the Almanac Singers and Pete Seeger and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. And he's really just experiencing his own life without any self-consciousness at all, without any discussion about, oh, is it okay if I change this style?
Right.
Is it okay if I use this instrument instead of that? There's no self-consciousness to it. He's just flowing through his life, living it, and then leaving it. And it's us in retrospect that look back and kind of dissect it and say, oh, look, he went from a guitar to a mandolin to a fiddle. I just recently found some incredible photos of Woody from an early concert in 1950 where he's playing fiddle and mandolin. And his style of fiddle playing, I swear to God, if he was like on the Lower East Side, it would be a big hit right now because it's very wacky. I mean, it's like very kinesthetically vibrant way. He didn't just stand there and play the fiddle. The fiddle bow itself is being thrown almost like Jimi Hendrix with a guitar. That's how he played the fiddle. So it's like very vivid and physical approach to playing the fiddle.
Wow.
And it's a whole different character. And it seems like right now, for some strange reason, a lot of these photos and a lot of these recordings are kind of coming to light. So I think over the next few years we'll be getting a little bit more evidence maybe of what I'm talking about. Basically what I'm trying to say is he was a very lively fellow.
Yeah.
and I think when people see the old gray and white photographs of him with a somber face at times, it's hard for them to imagine that he was such a lively character, a very funny character, extraordinarily mischievous character, and totally unself-conscious character.
Cool. I wished I had had time. Again, I wished I had had time to read. I got the feeling of all of what you're talking about. I get that from the A Life, the book A Life. I can't remember who wrote that.
Joe Klein.
Oh, Joe Klein's book. I thought that was just a wonderful book. Would you say that was pretty much on target?
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not sure. I don't know what the target is, to be honest. I'm still trying to discover that myself.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it was a very beautiful opening. It's actually the first book ever written about Woody, believe it or not. And there's only actually 2 or 3 out there even today, which is kind of extraordinary to me. I think I heard Springsteen say something recently about Woody that we're all so full of him in a way as Americans. We're all so unconsciously, secretively full of him. Whether, there's people all over the country that know the song "This Land Is Your Land" but have no idea that Woody Guthrie wrote it or who Woody Guthrie is, for that matter.
Right.
We're so full of his spirit and his story, and we don't even know how we know. And Springsteen said this the other day, and I thought that's really true. There's very few people that you can really feel their presence. You don't even know their name, but their whole life and their whole spirit is somehow in you, in a part of you. And like Springsteen was saying, even if you go to a mall and you ask anybody, do you know who Woody Guthrie is? And they go, no, most people don't. And he goes, do you know This Land Is Your Land? Oh, that, of course, that. I mean, there's like so many ways that Woody's like entered our culture and entered our life in an extraordinarily humble, you could say, way, a style, as opposed to usually we know about people in very flamboyant ways.
Right.
Their pictures on People magazine or on the cover of Rolling Stone, And Woody somehow has entered our country's life, almost every person in our country, in one way or another, and they don't even know it. And that's a very different relationship, isn't it? I mean, so I guess I'm saying that because that's what I think, anyway, and the work that I try to do with all these different projects. There's 3,000 of Woody's lyrics that I know of.
That's unbelievable,
isn't it?
It's an incredible thought.
Yeah. And it's just really recently been discovered in the last 15 years when we created the archives, as we started organizing his papers and alphabetizing lyrics and things like that. We did a count, and we have just about 3,000 here in the archives in this room. So I don't know what else is out there, because Woody was constantly writing and leaving things at people's houses and putting lyrics and letters, etc. So there's probably even more out there. But what happened to me was, as I was looking through all this material, I was totally stunned at how diverse the topics of the lyrics were, how just the variation of, some of them are short and quirky, others are long and ballad, like almost like novels. Incredibly different styles of writing, incredibly different approaches to writing. Some just kind of out there, bawdy, funny, love songs or something, and some intensely serious, political. Some of them ethereal, spiritual takes. This is a side of Woody that I, as his daughter, never knew or saw.
Wow.
And I suspect, because all the people I was working with in this environment here that were my father's friends, when I showed this to them, they had no idea that he had written all of this stuff.
The breadth of
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I try to do is I try to be totally as honest as I can be connected to this material. For instance, some of the lyrics, when you look at them, they're pure punk. I don't know how else to say it. They're just pure punk. And you know what am I going to say to the folk music? I'm sorry, he wrote punk lyrics. What can I do? But, so I realized that the community that shares Woody's spirit is much, much larger than any of us ever in folk music ever suspected. And to me, it includes the punk community, and it includes the rock community, it includes the classical. As a matter of fact, I'm working with David Amram. Do you know David?
Only by name.
He's a wonderful classical composer. He actually did the original score for The Manchurian Candidate. Worked and knew Jack Kerouac, who kind of came out of that beat poetry time. And I'm working with David right now. He's composing an orchestral suite that is kind of based on the spirit and the theme, the music of This Land Is Your Land, much the way Aaron Copland used the hymn Simple Gifts as the basis for Appalachian Spring. For any of you who are familiar with your classical repertoire. I got done that one. I could feel it.
Sorry.
Anyway, so, we're bringing Woody's spirit, that's what I'm saying,
yes.
into, it's going to be premiered in California later next year. So bringing it into the classical community as well. And like you said earlier this year, I had the opportunity of doing 2 albums with the Klezmatics.
Yeah.
Of Woody's. Now, this is not Nora's idea of Woody's Judaism. This, I swear to God, is Woody wrote songs about Rosh Hashanah. Woody wrote songs about Hanukkah. Woody wrote songs about the history of the Jews. Woody wrote songs about Jewish lullabies. Woody wrote songs about the Holocaust. And this is things that no one has any idea of. So I thought this would be my opportunity, and I do this for historical corrections, just to set the record straight.
Right.
That's why I do these projects. Rather than asking someone to read a book, I say, just listen to the CD and you'll get it. So I did have the opportunity to create 2 wonderful new CDs this year with the Klezmatics. Called the first one was called Wonder Wheel. And as a matter of fact, it's up for a Grammy this year in the world music section. And we'll find out how that goes in 2 weeks. And it's just a brilliant reinterpretation or recreation of Woody's ideas of what Judaism is, which I think would be very fascinating in this day and age in particular.
So
for people to know about.
Were these songs, or was this sets of lyrics?
All Woody's lyrics.
And they put it to music?
There was never any music written to them, kind of just what I did with Billy Bragg and Wilco years ago.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, so this is the next. I mean, I've done actually a number of other albums. I've been able to do one every year since 1998 when the first Mermaid Avenue came out.
Well,
so,
listen, I've got about 1 minute here till I need to take a commercial break. Would you mind coming back for a few more moments with me? Because
okay.
See how time flies.
Okay, I'll have my coffee.
A half an hour has gone already, and we thought, how are we gonna?
Is it really?
Yeah, it has. But here we are on the acoustic record with NORA Guthrie, taking part in my program today of the Guthrie family legacy. I do want to invite people to spend time at the website woodyguthrie.org to find out more about all these wonderful projects that NORA is involved in. And before I let you go today, I do want to touch base on a couple other of your projects. I also want to encourage folks to remember that Arlo and Sarah Lee and other members of the Guthrie family are on tour. They're getting ready to fire the tour back up again next week with several dates down here in Florida. And you can find out about the Guthrie Family Legacy Tour by either going to arlo.net or risingsunrecords.com. Nora, I'm going to put you on hold here for a second. We're going to take a brief break. Have your coffee. Enjoy. And thanks for taking the time out with me today. I am Java John. Folks, you're listening to the acoustic record on tropicwaveradio.net, and I will be back with you all in just a moment. Okay, welcome back, folks. Java John here. I'm certainly having a blast today celebrating the Guthrie family legacy. And speaking of Guthries, I have Nora Guthrie on the line. And hello, Nora.
Hi.
And again, thank you for taking time out to chat with me today. This is it's very fun talking to you, and it warms my heart the way that you basically pay tribute to your father is the only way that I can think of it by sharing all of his music and his art and sharing it all with the world. And the insight to.
Speaking of the Guthrie family legacy stuff, I have to laugh when you say stuff like that. It's kind of all we can do.
I had that feeling.
We're all kind of limited to this. I don't think I could do anything else other than work with my family's, material.
Yeah.
I'm just not cut out for anything else. So I don't know if we're all doing what we're doing by limitation, but hopefully if it helps somebody somewhere, if it serves some purpose, I guess our limit. Even it just goes to show you, even when you can't do anything else, you can do something.
It's on my long list of questions that I had for Arlo, one of them that I never got to was, what would you have done if you hadn't done what you're doing? And I'm pretty sure he wouldn't, maybe not have an answer for that.
He can't do anything else, trust me. And neither can his kids, and neither can I. I mean, I don't say that in a derogatory way.
No.
We're just all in this. I didn't get a chance to tell you that the other person that you were talking to in our office is Anna, who's my daughter, Woody's granddaughter.
Yes.
So we've got, between the brothers and sisters and all of their kids doing everything in all of the offices. Annie's working in Arlo's office, and Anna is working in Woody's office, and he seems to have. What do they call that? It's like disciples by descent.
Yeah.
Just kind of genetic disciples. And we're all here, and we all realize that this is what we feel good doing, being part of Woody and my mother's. I have to include that.
Yes.
In her legacy. And just, we're still doing what our parents tell us to do. What can I tell you? Nothing's changed.
We wouldn't want it any other way, believe me. But we were going to touch base because when I close up to the show today, we're winding down on the last half hour of the show. I think you and I were going to touch base on some of the material that I'm going to play.
Okay.
Was there anything else that you wanted to mention before we get to that?
Well, just in case anybody's interested in that wire recording, I would like to say that it's going to be released through us independently, and it'll be available through our website. We have an online catalog. If anybody's interested, we are the only store on the planet that carries just about everything and anything, all things Woody.
Yes.
Any books, any CDs. A lot of stores, they're on the shelf for 6 months, and then you can never find it again. And what we try to do, and it's really part of our mission and try to keep Woody's spirit and ideas alive, is to try to keep everything on the shelf as long as possible.
That's great.
As long as we can get a copy, you can get a copy. So I ask everyone if they're interested. We have things that have been out of release for maybe the past 10, 15 years, some of these books and CDs and stuff, but we have copies of them available, and also some special collector's items, things from the archives that benefit the Woody Guthrie Foundation.
Great.
Which we would really appreciate also, anything there. But this wire recording, we're going to be releasing it on July 14th, on Woody's birthday, and it has very extensive notes by our archivist here, Jorge Arevalo, who's done a lot of research and writing about it, because it's a fascinating historic piece of work. So we wanted to really present it in a very thorough way, which a lot of times you can't with a regular record company these days. You're lucky if you can get the lyrics put in your booklet these days.
Right.
So, so we're going to be hosting this particular project, and it'll be available in July. You can go to our website and check it out and get on our mailing list if you'd like to be notified about it. So I just wanted to mention that it's coming out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And, just talking about, I'm trying to connect like the family, what Arlo and the kids are doing, and this new Klezmatics CD that I was just telling you about, Wonder Wheel. There's a wonderful song on there called Mermaid's Avenue that I think you have a copy of.
Oh, I love it.
Where the borscht and the, meatballs meet, because Coney Island, this street where we grew up, and Arlo is like so much a part of that, and our kids, because we drag them down there to Mermaid Avenue every year.
Right.
It's part of our inter-family legacy tour. We make sure all of our kids walk the streets with us, And this is where we had meatballs, and this is where we had blintzes, and this is where we had knishes, and this is where we had hot dogs. Yeah, and it's like just this incredible hodgepodge of a collection of foods and smells and sights and sounds that is Coney Island, and really with an amusement park spirit even to this day. So that song, when the Klezmatics recorded that one, that was just one of my favorites. And what's really great is they do it with this kind of Afro-Caribbean, Haitian kind of beat underneath it, which is the present-day community. On Mermaid Avenue. It's very much Afro-Caribbean sounding stuff down there now. Like when I was born, when I lived down there, it was all kind of Yiddish-speaking, Russian, Jewish immigrants, and now it's changed as like all New York neighborhoods change constantly.
Right.
So I think they just did a brilliant job. First of all, it's a Woody Guthrie song you can dance to. Now that in itself is worth a record, And so I think of Arlo whenever I play that song, Mermaid's Avenue. I think it really resonates with some of the most fun that we ever had as kids living on that great street.
Nice. Okay.
And I'll just mention one other thing, because I think you were thinking of playing Wheel of Life.
Yeah, I'm going to play that one too.
Cool. That's also really important to all of us. I'm not just picking my own favorites. I'm picking songs that I think represent the whole family. And I think we started out 30 minutes ago talking about Woody's spirit. And we were all raised with a religion called All or None. When we asked our parents what religion we were, that was the answer we got, all or none. And that's what's on our birth certificate.
I like that.
And the reason being is because both of my parents, Woody especially, investigated and, again, went through not just different styles of music, went through many, many different styles of religion and worship and thought and belief and philosophy. And that's where he came out at the end of the day. So when someone goes on a quest and an amazing inner pilgrimage and comes out and says, you know what, it's all or none. And that song, The Wheel of Life, is really resonates with us as a family, too, because we know that our father and our mother understood this teaching that's so important, especially in these times when we're tearing ourselves apart with our differences in religion instead of our understanding. Our unity in spirituality is so important to sing about and talk about now. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And this song, Wheel of Life, really expresses that. And it basically says, everyone just get it ASAP, because if you don't get it, you just got to come back and do it all over again. So the faster you get it, the better it is for you and for everybody else.
Yes. Well, let me tell you, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play Mermaids Avenue and Wheel of Life. If I have time, I'm going to squeeze in one by Billy Bragg and Wilco. And I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been a lot of fun.
Our pleasure.
And I want to thank Anna for all her help and helping putting this together. And hopefully, when the Wire recording, when July starts rolling around, maybe we can do this again and focus on all these recordings that you have a hand in.
Anytime.
And everything else. Thank you very much, Miss Guthrie.
Okie doke. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Okay, and you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was cool. Okay, here we go. This is 2 by the Klezmatics.